20 years ago, cell phones were not what they are like today. There were many more dead zones, and GPS location is not what we're used to. But I'm sure none of this would have mattered for Maura Murray when she went missing on February 9th, 2004, in Woodsville, New Hampshire. And to this day, where she is and what happened to her is still a mystery. Hello, I am Sean, and welcome to my channel. If you are returning, then it's great to see you again. And if you're new, then hello. Twice a week, I try to research some true crime that I find interesting to tell you about. I want to make sure that the victims are remembered. There's a lot of victims out there, and they need to be remembered. We all know who Ted Bundy is, but we don't know any of his victims' names. If you're not subscribed, please do so. I have many new subscribers, and it's very humbling, and I really appreciate it. I think I just broke the 10,000 followers or subscribed mark, and it's amazing. If you have any idea for other future true crimes for me to do, please feel free to leave a message. I will look into them, and if it's something I can do, I will surely do it. Also, in my description, if you want, you can check out, I do have a Patreon page and would really appreciate the love. So, that all being said, on with today's true crime. Maura Murray was born on May 4th, 1982 in Hanson, Massachusetts. When she was 6, her parents divorced and she lived with her mother, Laura Murray. In high school, she broke many standing cross-country records. And after high school, she went to the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York. After a year at West Point, she quit and transferred to the University of Massachusetts to study nursing. Now, I've heard some accounts that while she was in West Point, that she got in a lot of trouble in that year, and that's the reason she left. But the information that I was reading for this today did not mention any of that. They just said that she was fed up with it and she wanted to go into nursing. So while in university, she admitted to using stolen credit cards to order food. I believe it was a roommate of hers that she just jotted down the credit card number off of a receipt and started ordering food. This was in November of 2003. On February 5th, 2004, while she was working, she was talking to her older sister, Kathleen. During the conversation, Kathleen told her that she was discharged from a rehab center for alcoholism and that her fiancé took her to a liquor store, and it caused an emotional breakdown for both of the women. A supervisor of Maura's noticed this and took her back to the dorm and let her go home early that day from work. On February 7th of 2004, her father, Fred, took her car shopping. After that, they went and had dinner, and then she dropped him off at his hotel and borrowed his Toyota Corolla to take back to school. She went back to university and attended a party. She left that party at 2:30 in the morning on the 8th and went back to the hotel to drop the car off for her dad. But on her way there, she crashed her car around 3:30, hitting a guardrail on Route 9. The damage was estimated to be around $10,000. The police officer that responded did not conduct a field sobriety test, and she was driven back to the hotel to stay with her dad. In the morning, Fred found that his insurance would cover the damages, so he rented a car and dropped Maura back off at university. Later that night, he called to remind her that she needed to get the accident report for his insurance. On Monday, February 9th, Maura looked up on MapQuest for directions to the Berkshires and to Burlington, Vermont. She also emailed her boyfriend telling him that she loved him. She made a call about renting a condominium in Bartlett, New Hampshire, but she was not successful in renting it. She also emailed a work supervisor telling him that she would be out of town for a week due to a death in the family. Now, later, the family confirmed that there was no death in the family. Around 2:05, she called a number that provided hotel booking information in Stowe, Vermont, and she called her boyfriend and left a voicemail. She packed up her 1996 Saturn sedan with clothing, toiletries, college textbooks, and birth control. In the dorm room, she had boxes packed with most all of her belongings. On one of the boxes, they found a printed email from her boyfriend. The email showed that there were some troubles in their relationship. It didn't go into much depth about what those troubles were, but there were troubles. Around 3:30, she drove off campus, and 10 minutes later, she withdrew $280 from an ATM. She bought herself $40 worth of alcohol, which included vodka, cola, Irish cream, and a box of wine. And at that time, she was alone, so she was buying a lot of alcohol just for herself. And yes, I said a box of wine. She even picked up the accident report. Sometime between 4 and 5, she left Amherst on the Interstate 91 and traveled north. At about 4:37, she called her voicemail, and this was the last call that was ever made from her cell phone. Soon after 7 p.m., a resident of Woodsville, New Hampshire, heard a large crash outside of her residence. She looked and saw a car headlong into a snowbank, and this was on Route 112. The car was eastbound, and she called the police to report the accident at 7:27. According to the 911, she claimed to see a man smoking a cigarette in the car, but she later stated that she never said that, but she did see a red light inside the car, and she thought it was a cell phone. At the same time as all this was going on, a school bus driver stopped by the scene. He lived a few houses down the road and wanted to see if she was okay. He stated that the young woman was walking around the car looking at it, and he asked her if she needed help and for him to call the police. And she said, no, 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 she already called AAA and begged him not to call the police on this. Later, AAA showed that there was no record that she ever called them. And the bus driver was kind of suspicious about it because the cell reception there was very spotty at best. Once he got home, though, he did still call 911, and this was at 7:43. Another resident stated that they drove by at 7:37 and saw a police SUV face to face with Maura's car. She stated that she did not see anyone in either of the vehicles or outside of the vehicles. This contradicted the police log, since the official log stated the police did not arrive till 7:46. So this was like 9 minutes before the police log actually said that they showed up. But when officers did arrive on the scene, Maura was not there. No one was in the car or outside of the car. He noticed that the car had impacted with a tree and it was severely damaged. It was not even drivable. Both both of the airbags were deployed, and the car was locked. Now I'm assuming that he shimmied to open the car door or whatnot, but outside of the car he discovered red stains, and he also found the red stains inside the vehicle. That's the reason I'm thinking he shimmied it to unlock the door. There was a damaged box of wine in the rear seat, and also there were some empty beer bottles. Also in the car, he found Maura's AAA card, gloves, CDs, makeup, jewelry, driving directions to Burlington, and a book titled Not Without Peril. Oh, and her favorite stuffed animals in the vehicle, too. Not found in the car was her debit cards, credit cards, cell phone, and some of the alcohol was missing of what she bought. And none of this stuff was ever seen again. The responding officer and bus driver searched the area, and EMS and the fire trucks came to clear the wreckage. They stopped searching around 9:30 at night. Authorities believe that she was missing, but possibly missing on her own accord, as she did have travel preparations in the car, and there was no obvious evidence of foul play. The following day, on February 10th, after 12 o'clock noon, they issued a bolo, be on the lookout for, and her family was notified, and she was not being referred to as missing by the police, and she was not done so until about 5:17 that evening. On February 11th, Maura's dad showed up in Haverhill and met with the Fish and Game. They all began searching. A search dog picked up her scent, and they found a glove about 100 yards east of where her car was. Because of this, the police thought that maybe she left in another vehicle. At 5 p.m., her boyfriend and his parents showed up to help. He was immediately taken to the police station and interviewed, and his parents were allowed in eventually. And by 7 o'clock, the police had a theory. They think that she came all that way and either A, wanted to unalive herself, or B, wanted to run away. Her family didn't believe that this was the fact. On his flight to Haverhill, her boyfriend had turned off his phone, and during the time he got a voicemail. When he listened to it, he believed that it was Maura crying, and they traced the call, and it went back to a calling card. So they couldn't trace it beyond a calling card to find out who actually made the call. Nothing else was ever said about this call in the articles that I was reading. Her father and boyfriend had multiple press conferences and appeared on news television all over. The FBI joined into the investigation 10 days after she went disappearing. Fish and Game did a second ground and air search using thermal imaging cameras and tracking and cadaver dogs. In March of 2004, Brianna Maitland disappeared from Montgomery, Vermont, a mere 60 miles from where Maura went missing. Similarities were drawn between the two by news organizations, but the state police blew it off, stating that there was no link between the two cases, so there couldn't have been any connection. From March until June, it was June when the local police dismissed any connection also. And if you wanted to know more about Brianna, I do have another video that I did a couple weeks ago about her. On July 13th, a 1 mile radius was being searched by nearly 100 searchers. This was the first search done without snow on the ground, so they're hoping to come up with better clues. But they didn't. On October of 2006, volunteers had a 2-day search where they searched miles around where her car was found. About a mile from the site, the cadaver dogs went off. The house had been formerly owned by a man whose brother turned over a rusty knife in 2004, claiming that his brother might have killed her. At the time, police felt like this guy was just trying to get the reward and that there was no connection at all. So a sample of the carpet was given to the state police, but the result was never made public. And the homeowner was not very cooperative. He didn't want them tearing into his house to find anything. So nothing else was done about the house. In July of 2008, another 2-day search was done in the wooded area. This had dog teams and a private eye in the group. In 2010, Fred Murray criticized the police investigation. Even though the investigation was still active, they had said that they didn't know if she's a victim, but they were actually treating it as if it was a homicide. Even though everything pointed that she just ran away, they were still treating this as a homicide, just in case. On the 10th anniversary of her disappearance, Fred said that he believed that she was dead and that she had been abducted that night. February of 2019 was the 15th anniversary, and they finally got permission to search the home where the cadaver dogs got a hit. The new homeowners were living there and said, okay, sure, yeah. It was the old homeowners that weren't allowing any connection to it. Of course, nothing was found. So they don't know why the dogs went off. And I mean, the cadaver dogs, it could have been a dead animal or something like that. The tree that she hit that night was marked with a blue ribbon as a memorial. But in early 2021, the owner of the land decided they wanted to cut down the tree. The family requested that a historic marker be placed there, but the New Hampshire Division of Historic Resources turned them down. As of July of 2022, law enforcement was still conducting searches. In March of 2016, James Renner published a book, True Crime Addict: How I Lost Myself in the Mysterious Disappearance of Maura Murray. In the book, he explains how he thought that she was traveling with a tandem driver who picked her up and helped her disappear. He also stated that she wanted to start a new life because of the pending credit card fraud case, and she thought that that would injure her becoming a nurse. He also pondered that maybe she was murdered by somebody she knew and everything else was just a cover-up. Her family disputed this story, and Fred even stated that he believed that his daughter was abducted that night and is now dead. It's such a young life, such a troubled life. You know, could she still be alive? Is she dead like her dad thinks? It's been 20 years. And if she really worried about the credit card fraud, the statute of limitation is well over, I believe. I mean, it's 20 years. I doubt it's been, the statute of limitation can't be 20 years. So technically she could come home now. If somebody killed her, maybe they need to come forth and, say something. Even if they do it anonymously, at least then the family can have some closure, and then they'd have a body to bury. It, it's just weird. So, if you're still alive, Maura, maybe it's time to say so. You have a lot of family and friends and everything that are missing you. So, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Love you all. See you next time. Bye.